The Supreme Court is about to play a major role in former President Donald Trump's legal battles, and it could have massive implications for the 2024 election. The conservative-leaning court includes 3 justices appointed by the former president himself. CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson joins us now. Jessica, among the cases that could come before the Supreme Court are the broad immunity claim in Trump's election interference case, the expected appeal of the Colorado ruling to keep Trump off the state ballot, and a separate January 6 case with a similar charge to what Trump is facing. So that's a lot. Do you think that the court's going to weigh in on all of those?
I don't think they're going to be able to avoid it, even though they desperately want to. I remember Bush v. Gore. That was almost exactly 23 years ago to the day. And I remember the crisis of legitimacy that the court faced after it looked like it decided the presidential election. They essentially stopped the recounting of ballots in Florida, which is the only way that Vice President Gore could have won. And this is a court that I think was deciding big issues with huge impacts, but not those with a political impact on a campaign. And that's really the difference. We saw the court run to the abortion decision, run to big Second Amendment decisions, but we've also seen them try to avoid these decisions with really big implications for the election. That's why they really didn't weigh in on the 2020 election. So yes, they're here. They don't want to be here. There's very little they can do about that.
You know, it seems like now more and more, whenever we talk about these cases in relation to the Supreme Court, one of the things that is mentioned is how many justices were appointed by Donald Trump or appointed by conservative presidents. And, you know, we're not supposed to talk about the Supreme Court like that. None of that is really supposed to matter. But we bring that up. And the other thing that has been brought up a lot is the issue of ethics in regards to the court. We've been talking about Judge Clarence Thomas and whether or not he should be recusing himself in these cases because his wife has been a conservative, what would you call activist, I guess,
yeah.
right?
Judicial activist.
Specifically when it came to the 2020 election. What's at stake for the Supreme Court in terms of its reputation, in terms of the trust that the American people have in it?
A lot. And that, I think, is largely why they don't want it to look like they're putting their thumbs and or bodies on the scale of the presidential election. So let's unpack a couple of the really important things that you said. One, I think you're right. It's painful, but we do have to talk about who appointed the justices. But I would say I'm not looking to see if it was Trump or if it was President Clinton, for instance. What I'm looking for is, was it a Republican president or was it a Democratic president? Because I think one of the things we saw as a result of the 2020 election is that the third of the bench, the third of the Supreme Court that Donald Trump appointed, I think they're interested in political causes, but not necessarily his cause. So that is one thing that I think we should separate. I mean, of course, we'll see. But in terms of its legitimacy, I think getting to the details of some of these cases, I think that's why the court will reverse the decision in Colorado, because they don't want it to look like they're the court that took the power to vote away from us. Let's remember back to Bush v. Gore, we had already voted. In this case, I think it would be even harder for the court to make the case that unelected justices, that it's their role to say, we're not allowing this candidate on the ballot. Now, in reality and legally speaking, that part of the Constitution that we're talking about in the Colorado case, it is democracy restricting. It's intended to be, and it is their job. But I think that's where we see that crisis of legitimacy, the historically low ratings bumping up against legal interpretation.
Jessica Levinson, thank you very much.
Thank you.